So, as guitar players, we really obsess over scales because we often think that is the easier way out when it comes to maybe playing over changes or coming up with more interesting musical ideas, etc. That may or may not be the case, but that's a conversation for a different day. For today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna list out 9 scales that everyone should know. If you know these 9 scales, you'll be at a pretty good spot where you'll be able to play over changes, more importantly, over specific kind of chord types. So let's get into it. Number 1, the Lydian scale. Now, the Lydian scale happens to be the most consonant sounding one. So let's say for the purpose of this video, we stick to the key of E. So here's an E Lydian. I'm starting on the 7th fret on the 5th string. So my scale degrees are root, 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4, 5th, 6th, natural 7, and back to the root again. So as you can see, it's got like somewhat of like a heavenly kind of vibe, or like a really, really positive kind of sound, right? Now, step by step, the kind of chords that you can play this particular scale over are gonna be number 1, a major triad, number 2, a major 7 chord or a major 6 chord, number 3, major 7s or major 6 with the following tensions: 9, sharp 11, or 13. So any combination of these particular chords or chord types along with the tensions will work well. Let's say I choose to start off with an E major 7 shell chord. So that's my shell chord, root 3rd and 7th. I can add the 9 on the top voice here, and here's the Lydian scale. Maybe I can add the sharp 11 on top here on the 1st string. Okay, I'm skipping the 2nd string in this case, so I'm playing root 3rd, major 7, and the sharp 11 on top. So same thing, same scale. Okay. Similarly, let's also try the major 6 with the 9 and sharp 11. I'm not gonna go over major 7 with 13 because the major 6 sound is gonna be similar to the 13 sound. So here's a major 6 shell chord, root 3rd and 6, 9 on top. Similarly, let's try the major 6 with the sharp 11 on top. Cool. And of course, you can always like mix the 9 and sharp 11 with the 13 or with the major 7. And it'll always work, of course. Now, another thing to keep in mind is like whenever you're working on this kind of a chord scale relationship, that's really what we're going over here. You wanna at least learn the scale across 2 octaves. So in this case, let's quickly check out what that sounds like. Now, scale number 2 is the humble major scale, also known as the Ionian scale. Now, the major scale has, I don't think I need to go over the major scale. Sorry about the little firecrackers. I'm shooting this on Diwali. So, happy belated Diwali, or probably happy Diwali if I end up uploading it tonight itself. But anyway, back to our topic. Ionian scale is essentially a major scale. You know it as Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, or Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Tha, Ni, Sa, depending on which part of the world you're in. And the chords associated with that are gonna be a major triad, number 1. Number 2, a major 7 chord or a major 6 chord. And then the available tensions are only going to be 9 and 13. Now, we already spoke about major 6. So, yeah, really 9 is your only available tension over there. Same key, key of E, across 2 octaves. Major 7 shell chord. Major 7 with 9. major 6 with 9. And you could always really add a major 7 and just add the 13 on top right here, Now scale number 3 is gonna be Mixolydian. Mixolydian is essentially a major scale, but the 7th is a flat, right? So you got root, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, flat 7, which is the characteristic note, back to the root. Let's go up another octave. Now the chords associated with this are gonna be 1, a major triad, number 2, a dominant 7 chord. Dominant 7 chord is a major triad with a flat 7 added to it, and of course major 6 can work over this as well, and your available tensions are gonna be 9 and 13. Pretty much the same stuff as the previous one, except your 7 is gonna be a flat 7. So let's start with that. Here's my shell chord, root 3rd, flat 7. 9 is right here, right below the flat 7. 13, I can add the 13 over here. Maybe let's say I add a 9 and 13 together. Major 6 with 9. And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Scale number 4 is gonna be Dorian. Okay, so now Dorian is essentially a minor sounding scale. Your characteristic note is essentially gonna be your natural minor scale, but the 6 is gonna be a natural 6. So we got root, 2nd, flat 3, 4, 5, natural 6, flat 7, and back to the root again. Now again, another octave from there. Related chords, number 1, a minor triad. Number 2, a minor 7 chord, also a minor 6 chord. Available tensions, 9, 11, and 13. Let's check them out. Your shell chord, root, flat 3rd, flat 7, right there. Okay, now you have a few options. You have a 9 right below the flat 7, and here's the Dorian sound with that. Here's a minus 6 with the 9. I added some chromaticism in there, sorry about that. But like, let's hear it with more of like a traditional Dorian sound. Scale number 5, the natural minor scale, also known as the Aeolian scale. I am not gonna go much over that. If you're watching this video, this is not a video for beginners. You are expected to know these scales to some degree at least, or like at least understand the construction of them. So I'm not gonna go over with that. So the Aeolian scale or the natural minor scale is gonna be root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and back to root. Here's another octave of that. Related chords, minor triad, minor 7 chord, not a minor 6, only minor 7. And your available tensions are going to be 9 and 11 only, nothing else, just 9 and 11. So now when we are voicing our chords, again, let's go back to the shell chord. So here's my E minor shell chord, root, flat third, flat 7, 9 is right there, 5 is there, I also have an 11 right there. Okay, so here's root, flat 3, flat 7, root again, and 11. And here's the scale over there. Let's try a different voicing. Let's try the minor 9. You can also play this particular version. This is a minus 7. A lot of people call it the minus 7 sus4, but you can also just see it as a minus 7 with 11, because we have root, 5, flat 7 and 11 right there, and we're doubling the 5 on top. Okay, if you want, you can also double the flat 7 on top over there, which can be an odd voicing to hold, but doesn't sound bad. That's the voicing. Now let's hear the scale with that. Scale number 6, Phrygian. Now we start entering more sadness or, I mean, I don't know, just a darker sound, I guess. Now the Phrygian scale, you can see it as an Aeolian scale but with a lowered 2. So we have root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and then back to the root. Now let's hear the scale, of course. Another octave. Cool. Now, related chords, minor, triad, minor 7, no minor 6 here either, minor triad, minor 7, and your only available tension over here is an 11. So not too many options in terms of related chords, but I mean, never mind, I don't have anything meaningful to say there. But yeah, here's my shell chord again. Root, flat 3, flat 7. I can add the 11 on top. And here's the scale. And again, you can play this voicing as well. Like one little off note. I think I have just used too much of chromaticism in life at this point. But anyway, you get the point. Let's move on to the next scale. Number 7 is the Lydian flat 7, also known as the Lydian dominant scale. As the name suggests, it's a Lydian scale, but the 7 is lowered. So root, second, third, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7, root. And here's another octave, root, second, third, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and back to the root. Now, related chords, of course, a major triad. In terms of 7 chords, a major 6 will work, and also a dominant 7. So here's my major 6 chord, major 6 shell chord. And here's dominant 7. Number 8, the altered scale. Now, the altered scale is like, whoa, the whole world has been wanting to master it, right? Easy way of looking at it, which is not advisable per se, but I'll give it to you anyway. It really helped me when I was getting into the altered scale. The altered scale is the 7th mode of a melodic minor scale. So if you take any melodic minor scale and start from the 7th degree, and end on the 7th degree, you are playing an altered scale. Okay, so let's try that out first. I was in the key of E, so now melodic minor. If E has to be a 7, it will be the 7 for F. So that means I play an F melodic minor starting from the 7. So here's my F melodic minor first, and here's my 7. So now let's play that. And here's 2 octaves of that. Okay, pretty tense sound, and the reason for that is it is a tense thing. So yeah, but I want you to think of it slightly differently over here. Okay, we often refer the altered scale as something that is relative to altered dominant chords. So I'm gonna play this over a dominant 7 chord instead. Now you might be asking why. Because if I talk about the degrees, I have a root, flat 2, flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and back to the root. Now, in terms of triads, in that case, I can think of it as an E diminished triad, which will work over this. So in that case, that's my triad. I can also think of it as a 1 augmented triad. So here's an E augmented. Right? Now, when I think of this augmented triad, right? Augmented triad can arguably be seen as an as a version of a dominant 7 flat 13. So let's play a dominant 7 flat 13. So here's my dominant 7 shell chord, root, third, flat 7. All 3 of them are essentially available here because your flat 4 is a natural third, right? It is the same interval. A natural third and a flat 4 are literally the same interval. So hence, we have this dominant shell chord available to us. I can add this flat 13 on top, right? Now let's play that scale. And the other 2 tensions available to are flat 9 and sharp 9. So let's add a flat 9 here. And sharp 9. And of course any combination of that, flat 9 with flat 13, sharp 9 with flat 13, right? I feel I feel like I did not learn the scale the traditional way. So the way I figured these voicings were, of course, at Berkeley we did study about it, but I felt that I should try it in real time. So I had like sat with a notebook and a pen and just like worked this thing out, and I realized that you don't really have natural 5 in the scale, do you? You have a flat 5, which is essentially a sharp 11. So technically, if you actually add a sharp 11 as well, that works too. And in fact, sharp 11 is one of the available tensions as well. So that's what I had figured when I had worked it out. Hence, I asked you to see this slightly differently. Okay, now let's talk about the final scale. This was, I believe, number 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, scale number 9 is the symmetric diminished scale. Now, specifically, we're talking about the whole half diminished scale. The reason for that is because the whole half diminished scale is a little easier to visualize on the guitar. Okay, now instead of starting from this particular E, what I would like you to do is start from this particular E. So same note except from the 4th string, and the reason is the shape is a little symmetric over here. Okay, Whole half diminished scale basically means a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, then another half step, and a whole step until you reach the root again. So here's my root E, whole step from that, half step from that, whole step, half step, 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 whole step, and half step all the way here. Okay? Cool. Now, before we get into the chords, because trust me, there are like lots of chords, and it's gonna be a little harder. So I'll tell you how I really work out chords with this particular scale. But before that, we are calling this symmetric because when like firstly you need to understand that this is not one of those typical diatonic scale. It's not a 7-note scale. It's actually what's considered to be one of the messiaen modes of limited transposition. These are essentially a list of scales which are symmetric and have limited transposition. What we mean by that is, so if I start this scale from E and then I go to my next inversion, it starts from the flat third of the original scale, but the shape remains the same. Okay? So every minor third interval apart, the shape remains exactly the same. Hence, we're calling it the symmetrical diminished scale. I mean, also because like whole half. I mean, it's as symmetric as it gets. Now, because of that, what we end up getting is we have 2 modes and 3 transpositions. Essentially, we have the C diminished scale, we have the C sharp diminished scale, and then we have the D diminished scale. Because once we reach E flat is already the first inversion of C. Okay, so here's E. Minor third up from that is your G. Okay, another minor third up is gonna be your B flat, and then another minor third up is gonna be your C sharp or D flat. So now the E diminished scale clearly falls under the D flat diminished family. So similarly, the C diminished family and the D diminished family also have their own set of transpositions. So under the D diminished family, let's say if I start from this D diminished 7th chord, right? So D, then we have F, then we have A flat, and then we have B, or we can also see it as like a C flat, and then back to D. So under D you have D, F, A flat, and B or C flat. Under C we have C, then we have E flat, then we have G flat or F sharp, and finally we have A. Okay, so these are the 3 diminished families that you need to remember. In terms of chords, rather than thinking triads, I directly like seeing it from the perspective of a diminished 7th chord first, because as you can see, if we go back to the E diminished here, same shape throughout. So now let's go back to this particular shape that we worked on, the whole half diminished scale. So if I take the root, the flat 5 and the natural 6 and then add this particular 11 on top, this also happens to be the upper structure for a C dominant 7 flat 9 with natural 13. Okay, similarly, if I play this E diminished 7th chord, you can see this as an upper structure for your F sharp dominant 7 with flat 9. Okay, if I add C in the bass, this is just a C dominant 7 with a 5 on top and a flat 9 over here. If I add this here, then I can also see this as a F sharp dominant 7 with a sharp 9 on top. Now, what if I chose the root, the flat 5, and then my, let's say my D sharp over here, so my natural 7. if I see this little shape, I can see it as an upper structure for a C dominant 7 sharp 9. I can also see this as an upper structure for an F dominant 7 with 13. So yeah, we spoke a lot about scales and chords. Now let's also talk a little bit about how to really practice these things, right? Because you probably noticed that when I was playing these things, I was not really trying to sound like the scale, right? I was trying to play phrases. So let's talk about these little things. Now, the practice of these scales are obviously gonna be a combination of what Gary Burton calls the memory of sound and the memory of the shape, right? So every instrument, doesn't matter what instrument you're on, these scales will have a particular shape. You can visualize them. For instance, let's say we go back to the first one, the Lydian scale, right here. Right. So now, when I'm playing this particular scale, I can hear a specific sound. I can hear that this sharp 4 is definitely a characteristic sound. Now, what I at least did for myself was between 2 to 4 max to max 5 note groupings is what I took. For instance, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say, yeah. So to me, that's a phrase. Now I'm gonna try and transpose that. So let's take an underlying chord along with it. Let's say I take just a major 6 with a sharp 11. Okay. And now let's say I want to transpose that to C. Now let's transpose that to maybe D. And you can always try to land on a chord voicing that has the last note of your phrase in it. Like for instance, let's say if I go back to E. So this is root 5th, major 7 and 9. Okay. What if I chose, let's say, it's just root 5th, sharp 4 or sharp 11 rather. Okay. And maybe I can add another 5 on top. And that creates a very nice little vibe. And if you start moving them around, let's say, and then mix and match things, and you start creating some beautiful music in general, right? And you start using these chords in a more practical, more honest, and in a more unique way. Right, this is how I use it. Now you try using it yourself. Now let's move on to the next point. This next point is sort of obvious. That is relating the chord scale to the relative chords. It's literally as it sounds, right? Like for instance, I was talking about Lydian for a little while, right? And I was only using voicings which had that Lydian sound in it. Like here's a root, sharp 4, natural 6. Or maybe let's say I want to play root 5th and 6 and add that sharp 11 on top, or maybe just add a 9 in between. So it sounds beautiful, right? Now let's talk about the musical side of things. Now, when you are creating ideas, you also have to think from the perspective of the listener, right? So here are a few things that listeners by nature will pick up on. Number one, the difference between consonance and dissonance, or happy and sad, if that's how you want to put it, right? Number two is gonna be a sense of pulse, like the main heartbeat of your groove, essentially. And finally, pitch, tempo, and harmonic flow. Let's say I start with a note like this. Now, this note can be anything. It can be an upper structure of a major 9 chord. It could be the natural 7 of a D major 7 chord. It could be the flat 7 of an E flat minor 7 chord. It could be the 6 of an E major 6 chord. It could also be the 6 of an E minor 6 chord. It could be the third of a dominant 7 chord, the flat third of a B flat minor 7 chord, or minor 6 chord, flat 7 of an E flat dominant 7th. I don't know why I was talking so much. Let me do a little bit of improv and tell me, maybe comment down below, if you hear any of these 3 points that I just mentioned. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk much about that anymore. Whatever you observed, comment down below. Let's talk. And if you want to learn all of these things, by the way, my details are in the description box below. I'll also add it somewhere here on the screen. You can get in touch with me. I provide online lessons via Zoom, FaceTime, whatever. And we talk about all of these things: music theory, improv concepts, composition, a little bit of guitar recording stuff, ear training, etc. A bunch of stuff. Get in touch with me. Hit me up. Yeah, let's move on. Now, the final and most important thing to keep in mind when it comes to improvising or composing in general, okay? Number one is a storyline, okay? Now, a storyline is a very subjective matter to talk about because you as an artist, me as an artist, somebody else as an artist, everybody is gonna see the world through their own eyes and through their own senses, and it's only natural for everything is to be different from each other, right? From philosophy to harmonic usage to choice of voicings, everything, but whatever. Either way, a storyline is something that we can still think of. A few simple things to keep in mind when it comes to storyline would be, let's say, just a simple idea of question and answer. If I start from one random note, I'm not thinking of a scale or anything like that, just a random note. Let's say that. If that's a question and that's an answer, I can repeat that if I want to. I can harmonize it with maybe this particular note. Or this note. Again. That's creating a storyline. I want to repeat it a few more times. Now I want to move, maybe. Or maybe one more time. If you notice, I'm not following the exact same rhythm throughout. but it still sounds similar, right? So it still passes on as a storyline. Now maybe I want to change. So that hopefully answers your storyline part. And you probably also heard a little bit of the next point, which is theme and variation, right? So if you remember the first line that I was playing, I think that is what it was. I don't exactly remember, but I think that's what it was. And I started with this. Now, this wasn't the exact rhythm that I used, right? But then, doesn't it still sound similar to that idea? That's the idea of theme and variation. Now, let's say this particular idea has a specific sound to it, right? It's got like a bit of like a hopeful kind of sound. Now, I'm feeling like if I raise this particular note by a half step, I will completely change that sound. And that's exactly what's happening. But I want to bring back that hope again. So, I get that now. Again, I want to repeat that. So, that's the variation part. Now, I'll come back to the main theme again. So, hope is back. Now I want to go on a different journey. So yeah, music is a beautiful thing. I love it. I love living it. Yeah. And I love teaching it. So, thank you for watching. Hopefully, this long video was pretty useful. It took me a little while to make this video, so if you can subscribe to the channel, if you can share this video and like this video, that would be really helpful, especially if you got something out of it. If you dislike it, I'm sorry. I hope to create content that you like in the future. However, for the timing, please work with what you have. So again, I'm going to mention this to you. I am a full-time educator. If any of these things sound interesting to you and you want to go more in depth, you want to learn a bit more seriously, you want to learn things that you would like, which you think I know can teach you, get in touch with me. My details are in the description box below, and I'll also add it somewhere here on the screen. So yeah, you can call or WhatsApp me. I have my phone number down there, or you can also email me and I'll share the details with you, and we get in touch and we interact, we teach, learn, etc. and we talk music. So again, thank you for watching. I'm Subharaj Ghosh, guitarist, improviser and music educator, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.